Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, USA Global TV and Radio watchers and listeners. Welcome to Talking Heads, and I'm your host, Mariska du Preez, all the way here from sunny New Zealand. So for today, we are going to explore a little bit more around delegation. And yes, we have had some delegation explorations before on this show, as well as some elements that is within the delegation explorations. So for today, I want to give you guys the top 3 things to take into consideration when you want to effectively delegate to your team or to other people in general. So let's jump right in. What is the first thing to take into consideration? Well, I don't know about you guys, but normally for me, if I need to delegate anything, or if anything has been delegated to me, I need to know exactly what it is that I need to do, not necessarily how to do it. So I want to be clear as to the delegation methodology, in the sense of there's different ways that we would give a task over to somebody. And this we explored a little bit in one of our previous shows. We had a look at what exactly it is that delegation is made out of and how to best determine where to delegate what. Now, we're going to go through some of that again today. And when we think about delegation, the communication part of that is really, really important. So when you think about delegation and delegating a specific tasks to somebody else, or if something has been delegated to you, we need to understand and agree on exactly what it is that's going to happen. Now, say, for instance, we have a task of painting a room. And the task is literally, the instruction is paint this room. Now, if I were to give that instruction to another human being, they may or may not ask me a couple of questions. Now, if they do not ask me any questions whatsoever, and I think, yep, I did a great job, I just delegated this task to them, the room will be painted when I get back. There is 2 things that I am not taking into consideration. I don't know exactly what it is that they understand that they need to do because I never checked. The other thing is that I also didn't check on my timelines with this person, right? So I'm thinking when I get back, it will be painted. Great. I might also be thinking that when I get back, it will be painted in my favorite color, or the color that I actually want in that room. Now, did I ever say that to the other person? I didn't. I only said, paint this room. Now, because I only said paint this room, the person also did not ask me any questions. So they are literally going to now choose a paint, whatever paint it is, choose a color, whatever color it is, and they will take as long as they feel fit, because we did not agree on any of these parameters. So when we delegate something, it might be a project or it might be a task. We need to be clear as to what the boundaries are for that specific thing that we have delegated. We also need to be clear as to what exactly we have delegated. Now, it's not a problem if I told the person, hey, I'm going to delegate this painting of the room to you. And I'm okay. Whatever the color scheme you choose, whatever the paint color you choose, whatever the time frame it is that you come up with, let me know what it is, and then go ahead and go from there. If that is what I did, I also gave them full authority of the specific project or task, because I left all the boundaries very, very open, and they need to come back to me with what it is that it's going to look like. Now, also notice that I need to specify, so that might be one of my only boundaries, is come back to me to let me know how you think that would look like. So it is very open. They can choose whatever it is that they see fit for that space, and they will come back to me to let me know how it's going to look like, what paints they chose, and what time frame they're looking at completing the task. If, however, there's very specific outcomes that we require for this project or for this task, I need to communicate that to the person up front. And I need to let them know exactly what those things are in order for them to do a good job. I also need to be very clear whether I am going to give them the authority within that space to do whatever it is that they need to do, and realize if I give them the authority for them to do whatever it is that they need to do, then whatever the decision is that they make, I need to support it. Listen very carefully. When they have the authority to do whatever it is they need to do for the task or the project, and they make a decision, I need to accept the decision. It is their authority. They have it. They can make and break the way that they see fit for that thing. Of course, within the boundaries that we have set up front. If I only delegate responsibility for the task, so making sure that the task actually gets performed and gets done to them, then there will most probably still be some decision-making elements within that they will come back to me to get some information about. Now, we need to be very clear, this is part of that boundary setting, as to whether I am delegating full authority, partial authority, or only responsibility of this task or project, so that they are clear as to when they need to come back to me on timeframes, on what's going to happen, and anything else that needs to take place within this space. So that's all part of our communication, and we need to be very, very clear that we have communicated all the pieces that's required. We also need to be very, very clear that we have agreed on what's going to happen. So whether it is that we need to get feedback on the specific thing that needs to happen at certain intervals, how it might look like that we communicate with one another if there is something that comes up that's unexpected. It might be that I ask them to paint the room and they get into the room and one of the walls are missing. Right? Now, okay, fine, they can still paint the room, but is it feasible to paint the room with one of the walls missing? Maybe not. So if we have a problem that comes up, how are we going to address that? And who is going to be responsible and accountable to make that decision? Can they make the decision? And if it's still within the time frame, they just let us know that the time frame is going to be changed because of whatever the problem was, and they have it in hand. Or do we want to make the decision and figure out how it is that we want to sort out said missing wall, and then go from there. So we need to have clarity on how that's going to work. The next thing that we also need to make sure of, so this is the very first thing, we need to be clear for ourselves first, right? The clearer we are for ourselves as to what we're thinking about, how we expect these things to happen, what it is that we want as an outcome, the easier it is to then communicate that to the other person and have a discussion so that we can agree on certain terms and conditions under which we will then be working. Now, this is an agreement, not an expectations. Expectations are the things that happen in our own head, it happens in other people's heads, and we generally cannot read each other's minds. Agreements are the things that happen that we have a conversation about something, we understand what the outcome is for all parties involved, and we agree on how we want to proceed getting there. That's an agreement, and we want to make sure that we have an agreement with the person that we are delegating the task to or the project to. Now, the next thing that we need to take into consideration is we also need to have a little bit of a look at the skills and abilities. So yeah, it is really, really important to understand what strengths we have in our team. So we have different team members. We hopefully have a fairly diverse group of people. So we will definitely have different skill sets and different strengths and abilities within our team and space. We will also have different experience levels. Now, it is our task as the leader or the person delegating the task or the project to understand what those are for the other people in the room. The better we understand it, the easier it is for us to delegate something properly. If I don't know whether the person has that specific thing as a strength, it is a lot more difficult to delegate something with confidence, knowing that this person's got it. I, for instance, when I ask the person to paint the room, do not want to ask somebody that literally have no idea about how to properly paint a wall. If this is their very first attempt at painting a wall, they have had zero training whatsoever, and just letting them loose, a 3-year-old literally, in a room that they need to get painted, it might not look great. If that's the look I'm going for, wonderful. Typically, it is not the look that most people will be going for, so we need to make sure that we delegate the task to the right level and skill set for the person, as well as playing to their strengths. So it's very, very important. We have a couple of other resources and other shows where we have discussed playing to our team's strengths. So you can find out what those are for your team. Just go back and watch those videos. So when we look at our team, we want to make sure that we play to their strengths. We want to make sure that this is within their ability and within their field of expertise, if it is something that needs expertise. And then we also want to make sure that they have the required resources for the task or project. Now, it might be that they need other team members to help them. It might be that they need specialized equipment to help them. And we want to make sure that we can set them up so that they have everything that they require in order for them to actually perform this specific thing to the best of their ability. So these are things that we need to constantly take into consideration before we delegate the task. Now, We've looked at the element around the communication and agreeing with the person. We also had a look at, okay, is this something that they're really good at already? Is this a ability that they have? Is this a strength that they have? We also need to take into consideration their growth areas. So within our team, we want to make sure that our team grows and they learn new things. Now, earlier I mentioned the 3-year-old maybe not being able to paint the room properly. If this is a growth area for them, we need to take into consideration, is this something that maybe I can let them team up with someone else that already has some experience in this specific part of the work that they're doing? So think of a very senior person within your team that has been doing this a couple of times. This person might be an understudy for that person. Or it might be that this is the second time the person is going to do this type of project or perform this type of task. So we might delegate to them and the resources we provide them. So the team and the other things that we give them to set them up so that they actually perform this task to the best of their ability are people and resources that's been used for this specific task or project before. So we have inherent knowledge in our resources that we're using with the skill sets for this person. So we want to make sure that we provide an environment in which this person can thrive and do a good job of the delegated task or project. And then the piece that is really, really important, and I cannot underscore this enough, is trusting the person and giving them that empowerment in order for them to then go and do this task or project to the best of their abilities. If we don't trust the person to do a good job, they will live up to our expectations. When we do expect this person to do a good job, they will live up to our expectations. So whatever the expectations is that we have in the sense of what we think they're going to come back to us with, after thinking through communicating everything that they need, providing them all the resources, making sure what their abilities are, what their strengths are, and whether they are in a place where they can really succeed. That's all us, right? So once we've thought through all of that, and we give this task over or this project over to them, we should be able to say, yep, you've got it. I am happy. We know exactly what's going on, and this is all good. I know that you will make this successful. We need to trust them. And by us trusting them that they will be able to do this properly, we instill that confidence in them too. So it is really our expectations, our own thinking around it, how we believe they will succeed in this endeavor. It comes through. It comes through in how we approach them. It comes through in how we make sure that the team is set up properly, that they are set up properly. All of these things sort of work hand in hand. They work really, really tightly together, actually, so that it can give us the outcome that we preferably want. So we also need to make sure that we empower this person in all the ways possible. So as I mentioned very early on, one of the things to take into consideration is while we are setting up our boundaries for the way that we're going to work around this project or the specific task, we want to make sure that this person is empowered to be able to do what they need to do. If we give them full accountability for what it is that they need to do, we also need to give them all the resources and all the say-so, and I have seen this in teams quite a few times before, when people are delegated tasks or projects and they say they have the accountability, and yet when the team runs into some or other obstacle of some sort, they run back to the person that did the delegation to start off with. Now that then is not full accountability to the person that was delegated. If I'm going to interfere with how they're doing things and not send the team members back to the person that I delegated to, I did not delegate with full authority. And that's on me. That is my job to get it sorted out. Because if I said full authority, that means what they say go. I can only, when they ask for it, or when I see that something might not be quite going 100%, ask a couple of questions to prompt them to think about what I'm seeing. It is not my job to make decisions. It is not my job to make suggestions. It is their job to figure it out. And I am there as a resource to support them to figure it out. I am not saying stand on the sideline and when you see that the place is burning down, just go, yep, okay, that's it. Then you are not supporting. You are there to support. So when you see that there's a small little flame, you can point to the flame and say, hey, have you guys seen this? And what's the plan? So at least they are aware of it. And they see that you are aware of it too. They can think through it. Looking at it, seeing small flames, and then just leaving it is abdication from your part and not empowering the team or the person that you delegated to. So make sure that you empower the person. And that goes back to our previous 2 points. We really want to make sure that we have proper boundaries set. We have proper communication channels. We have proper agreements with each other as to how this will look like and what is required. What would happen if we see a little flame? What would happen if these other things pop up? What's our mitigation? What's the thinking around it? And especially when we have given the authority to them, they need to come back to us to say, this is how I'm planning to do it, and this is what's going to happen within it. And then if there's anybody that wants to ask questions, we can send them off to the person we delegated to. Of course, making sure that we still give them proper support. And by sending the other people to the person we delegated to, we give them support that way too. They know that we trust they've got it. So making sure that we really, really communicate that trust and that we do it in a way that they feel supported. So that's the other thing that we also need to take into consideration within our trust empowerment piece around how each person works. So the person that we have delegated the task or the project to might work different to the way that we would work. We might be very driven and we want to run things and just get to the outcome that we are looking for, whereas they might take a more strategic approach and work out a whole bunch of things before they actually get into the doing of the thing. So understanding how it is that they work, going back to their strengths, right? So we want to make sure that we set them up with the strengths that they have and the project or the task, so that they actually speak to one another and they can learn from what it is that they're doing, as well as helping them with other resources in the areas where they might have gaps. So really understanding our team members, understanding what it is that we are delegating, and then setting everybody up for success and trusting, really instilling that trust in them and letting the team know that this is the function, so that everybody is clear as to what's happening and who's responsible for what and who's accountable for what and how that looks like. So all the boundaries are clear to everybody involved. That is, well, the long and short of effective delegation. So as a quick recap, if you want to quickly go, I want to delegate this task and now I have no idea what to do. First off, think about communication and making sure that you set clear agreements. So that would be your very first point, how you set those agreements and setting up your boundaries. Then, secondly, you want to make sure that you are very clear as to what the abilities and the strengths are of the person that you're delegating it to, and where you need to resource this specific person in order for them to be successful. And then last but definitely not least, because that's the thing that ties everything else together, is trust as well as empowerment. Making sure that we can instill the trust because we have set them up properly, and empower them to be able to do this to the best of their abilities. And then, well, our room should be painted just the way it's supposed to be. And not when we come back, but when we have agreed that the room will be painted, it would be in the perfect shade, in the perfect color, and of course, no stray drippings from the wall. And that is how we effectively delegate. I hope that you guys enjoyed our lessons. And of course, please do go and look at our other resources where we have discussed some other tips and tricks around delegation and how to help our team members be effective. Until next time, see ya.